Maybe you're in the market for an internal frame backpack, specifically a very large internal frame for a multi-day trip, 3 days or more, roughly. This is nothing fancy, and here I go attempting to review that category. Like I've said in my other videos, reviewing backpacks is a very difficult subject to attack because the models are changing all the time, along with the specifications, the prices. All the models from all the different manufacturers just do not seem to last very long, with some exceptions, like the Tioga series from Kelty. Things that just perennially sell very well, they tend to stick around, but some don't. Even really great designs like this Mountainsmith Expanse backpack. However, if you are in the market for an internal frame, you might find some things here as I go over the features that might help you in your quest to find the right backpack for you. I'm not the end-all expert, like I've said thousands of times before. There's lots of opinions and experts floating around out there that have a lot of experience, probably a lot more than I do with internal frame backpacks, and you can do all kinds of searches and find those. However, I do receive a lot of requests and PMs, i.e. private messages, asking me for this information. Therefore, I'm going to make it as thorough and complete as I can, and let's get going. By the way, I try to adhere to my talking points. These are them as I go down the list talking about this backpack. And again, I'm equipping you with the information by using a representative backpack in the category. What category is that? Again, internal frame, large to extra large size. And specifically, this Mountainsmith Expanse lists itself as being 5,800 cubic inches. That's a big internal backpack, generally speaking. Here's the specs, and I always save the information that comes with my gear. It's good to refer to. It has warranty information, contact information for the company should you need it. Yeah, you can look it up on the website, really easy, but it's nice just to have it. And here's all the specification of the Expanse, shows what it does, talks about how to fit it, lots of good information. But 5,800 cubic inches, that's the size. Now, I have a little philosophy when it comes to internal frame backpacks, and it goes something like this. First off, there's a lot of elitism when it comes to internal frame packs, meaning that there's a lot of guys that like the uber cool internal frame backpacks, and they'll spend $500 on a backpack, this variety. And they go for super light, and maybe they're minimalist. And I think since these guys are out there and they're very vocal, I think it lends a lot of disinformation on the variety. And a lot of the backpacking magazines as well have taken up the banner for internal frame backpacks and pretty much made it the standard of backpacking. And I think that's false information, because I think it's rare that an internal frame backpack will serve you best in your backpacking needs, truth be told. There are some limitations which I'm going to go over as I review. Also, I don't like how the manufacturers term their size. Like they'll take an internal frame backpack that can only hold 3,500 cubic inches, and they'll say, yeah, it's an ideal multi-day backpack. It's great for a weekend or a 3-day trip. Well, like you saw in my backpacking gear review extended stay series, that was an 8-part video, that is pretty much a misnomer. To think that you can go out 3 days, unless you're an absolute minimalist camper or backpacker, 3,500 cubic inch pack ain't going to cut it. There's no way, especially if you're in cold weather. If you want to fish, hike, shoot, have a good tool selection like knives, to make fires with, have contingency items, signaling devices, fire making supplies, all that stuff adds up. Cookware, food, variety of clothes, sleeping pads, tent, all that takes space, and try to cram that into 3,500 cubic inches is a joke. I mean, yeah, it's a good day pack size, but in my experience, unless you're willing to rough it, and I mean really rough it, like sleep on a very thin ground pad or no ground pad at all, maybe don't even take a tent, sleep under a tarp, don't take cookware, take a can instead, then yeah, you can do it. But if you want to live in any degree of comfort, you need a large backpack, kind of like I'm showing you. And a lot of times, even though you're going on a multi-day excursion versus an overnight, a lot of times your backpack size is going to be about the same, because the gear you're taking is going to be the same. Tents inside, sleeping bag, sleeping pad, tools, all that's going to come along even on an overnighter, unless, again, you want to rough it. Enough said on that. A lot of elitism on that, and I don't dig it, and a lot of disinformation. But back to the type and the philosophy of use of POU on an internal frame pack, there are times when it is appropriate to take an internal frame versus external. If you are going through heavy brush consistently, off trail consistently, or scrambling over rocks, then yeah, an internal frame is the way to go. It's going to give you better balance. The weight is held closer to your body. And like you can see, it has a narrower profile, so it won't snag up in the brush as much. All those are the advantages of an internal frame backpack. And depending on where you're going and what your trip is, that might be what's on the menu that day. So, big internal frame, talked about the type and size. How's the weight? The weight on this, and I'm going to go tripod and off tripod, the weight on the Expanse is actually not super light. But, I wouldn't expect it to be because it's a big backpack. It is specifically 6,800 or 5,800 cubes, like I said. And so it's 6.5 pounds. That's the same weight, by the way, as the Kelty Super Tioga that I reviewed in my external frame backpack category review. So, but you know what? They have gotten lighter. There are newer backpacks out there by Mountainsmith. And by the way, it just so happens I have a Mountainsmith, but I totally acknowledge that there are a lot of other great backpack designs out there. Gregory, REI, North Face, heck, Cabela's, Kelty, so many. And so again, what I'm trying to do is equip you with some features reviews that might be handy as time goes on. But if you look at the newer Mountainsmith ones, they're about a pound lighter than this one. I think one's the Boundary, I forget the other model names, you can go to their website. And one's even bigger than this now. But 6.5 pounds though is doable. And I don't want a backpack that's super light duty when I get to this size, and I talked about that in my Kelty Super Tioga review. I want sturdiness. I want good straps. I want good fabric, and this is 420 denier pack cloth, really tough. They say in their pamphlet it's tougher than Cordura, 600 denier Cordura. And from my experience with this pack, I'll agree with that. It is outstanding pack cloth. Really rugged, really tough. I like it. So the weight is reasonable for the capabilities and the size of the amount of gear that it's going to let you carry. Now, we're going to talk to versatility and features now. An internal frame backpack is not going to be as versatile as an external frame. That is a function of its design. Now, for you newbies, what am I talking about an internal frame? Let me flip this around, just like I did with the Tioga. Do you see? And by the way, this is a long pack, but I'm also 6'3" tall. So for me, this is a pack that's sized for me. If you're 5.5 foot tall, this is not a pack you want to have. At least packed the way I have. This is a large backpack made for taller people. And yeah, it's representatively packed of how I would carry it. A lot of it is just packed for representation to show you what the loadout looks like. But yeah, it's a long pack. Look at that thing. But getting back to the frame, do you see an external frame visible? Nope. There's 2 aluminum stays inside the pack bag. And also they have these high density plastic rods. That's just inherent in this particular design that come up around the hip bones, which helps stabilize the weight. And there's lots of different designs of internal frames. You're going to see all kinds. You're going to have a plastic. This also has a hard, high density plastic frame sheet on the back too, so things won't come poking you in the backside, which I like. But your aluminum stays, which are anatomically shaped to fit your back, they're right through here. And that's what's carrying most of your weight when you're backpacking with an internal frame. This specific design also has supposedly a head cradle. I hate this feature, by the way, because it usually pops out like an external belly button and smacks right in my head. Because I got a lot of gear in there and it pushes out. I think they've probably done away with that feature. And speaking of that, you're going to see features come and go on backpacks. The manufacturers try certain, gadgets. And perhaps the year you buy it, like this is what was in that year. And the next year they found out, hey, you know what, that kind of sucked. Let's don't do that. But what they're trying to do is giving indentation for your head. It doesn't work so great, but not a huge deal. Getting back to the frame though, actually an internal frame backpack with a proper frame built inside the pack bag, like I just said, can carry a lot of weight. As much as a pack bag can hold, per volume, it can carry it. And I will tell you right now, this Mountainsmith Expanse is an outstandingly comfortable backpack. I mean, it rocks. Very stable. It feels good on the shoulders and hips, and the balance on it is outstanding. So the versatility, getting back to that, even though it is an internal frame, it is comfortable. However, lacking that external frame, do we have lashing capability? We do not. I mean, you could make an argument, well, yeah, I can lash stuff if I use these straps somehow, maybe tie into those and lash using that hard point or that hard point, or maybe making some extended compression straps. Yeah, you can do that. And I do the best I can with what I'm given. And, I can be innovative like the rest of them, but it's not the same as an external frame. It just isn't. Also, do you see anything lacking? How about external pockets? This particular model of Mountainsmith has very few pockets on it. Specifically, well, to be generous, 3. You got this big one on the back, then you have the large mesh pockets on the side. By the way, I love these large mesh pockets, and if you do go mesh pockets, get ones like these. Big ones that are angled that you can access. Now, you'll notice that I'm packing a 22 rifle on the side. This is just a representation of what you can load, speaking of versatility of the design, on a large internal frame pack that is designed like this. What do I mean by that? I have 2 compression straps that I can strap a long item with, and I can anchor it in that very large mesh pocket. That is a Marlin 22 papoose. Would I pack with that? Well, it just depends. You could very easily put your fly rod in there, your carry case for your fly rod, a fishing pole, your hiking poles if you're in really rugged terrain and you can't use them. Any number of long things could be strapped to the side. That's the one reason I brought this Expanse. I liked that capability. And I love those mesh pockets. They're huge and they hold a lot of gear. I've even put an entire fleece jacket in these things. But right now it's anchored with a 22 rifle. Marlin papoose. By the way, that thing's outstanding. Buy 3 today if you can, before they go away forever. And a little first aid kit. And then on this other side, I guess I got a water bottle and a Rat 7 combat survival knife. Just representations, doesn't necessarily mean that's what I take every time. Just to kind of give you an idea what type of gear I would take. Now internally it also has a hydration pouch, like for the Camelback pouch, which I show you guys like all the time, this thing. This is just a representation, a pouch like this. And it has a carry pouch for it. And then you route your drinking tube through here, cleverly marked H2O in case you forget. Then I anchor it to this right-hand shoulder strap. But getting back to versatility and pockets, it's got 3 pockets, a 2 mesh and then that big one. And that is a limitation if you ask me. As cool as those large mesh pockets are, I still don't have the organizational capability of the big ones that I do on the Super Tioga. And the backpacks weigh the same. 6.5 pounds. Now granted, the newer models of Mountainsmiths and probably from a lot of other manufacturers you might be able to find some that have pockets, and I highly recommend you get as many pockets as you can for organizational capabilities. There's that word again, capabilities, like first aid kit, sunscreen, snacks, it's just nice to have pockets. And the newer Mountainsmiths, the larger ones, do have that, and I was glad to see that they changed the design. So in a way, I guess it's good that they changed. So, versatility, not super versatile. Another thing I do not like about internal frames, and this is not a hit against the Mountainsmith, it's just the design, is that they're hard to pack. I mean, this specific model does have an access panel here. See this portion here? There's a zipper under there, and that's designed to access the middle of the pack bag. So you do not necessarily have to go in from the top and go all the way down to fetch something out. That you can go mid-pack, unzip that, and that's cool. But you know what? As soon as you do that, that hard pack material, in other words, all the stuff that you carefully arrange inside the pack bag, is going to get disorganized and you've got to reset it. That's because a lot of the structure and rigidity of an internal frame pack is created by how you load it. Yeah, I know it's got an internal frame. It has a hard plastic back sheet, but still, how you load an internal frame will pretty much decide how it's going to ride on your back. If you just throw crap in there willy-nilly and you don't pack it accordingly, like smart, it's not going to be comfortable. It's harder to pack, and more importantly, it's harder to fit everything in there. If I'm going on a 5-day trip, dudes, it's almost impossible for me to take an internal frame pack. There's just too much stuff. And look at, again, my 8-part backpack gear review, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Yeah, pack raft, forget it. That can't come if I'm taking this backpack. I have no room for it. Honestly speaking, that rifle's not coming either, because there's other stuff that's more important. I'm just showing you that by way of representation, like if you're going on a day hike or a weekend hike, how you could carry it. You know, I need food, I need, sleeping material. And my tent is actually going to go inside. It's going to take up internal volume in an internal frame backpack, which sucks. Because on the Super Tioga and other large external frame packs, I can strap it up here. Remember that? Nice, but I can't do that here. I have to use internal volume. That sucks. And I just can't take as much gear. Heaven forbid you're going on a winter camp out and you have packs and liners and heavy gloves, maybe extra socks, fleece gloves, because all of that stuff takes up space, and you will rapidly run out of space, even in a 5,800 cubic inch pack. Don't kid yourself. Oh man, 5,800 cubes, man, I could live all year out of that thing. Oh yeah? Make your video showing how you've done it. I'd love to see it. And that, again, is partially the manufacturer's fault, because they hype it up so much. Because they'll say anything 5,000 cubic inches or higher, they'll go, oh, you could live a week out of this thing. Well, yeah, if you pack really, really carefully, you might be able to. Anyways, that's the end of part 1. Large internal frame backpack review using my reference backpack, the Mountainsmith Expanse. Tune into part 2, nothing fancy.